directly in
Make
my eyes
sure
the
that
whole
you
time.
don't let what you just said about Greg, though, go out on the live stream.
Okay, we'll be careful, Bob.
Just
We'll
because
never
he's not
know.
here doesn't mean that you can talk about him.
All right. Welcome
Okay,
to, are we
looks like
live?
we're live. Yes, we're
All right.
live. Go for it, Nick. Take
All
us
right,
away.
welcome to this week's Ask Us Anything. I am doing the Greg portion today and welcoming everybody here. This is our monthly Ask Us Anything, where we go live to answer your questions. And so if you'd like to join us for one of these, it's the first Wednesday of every month at 9 p.m. that we do these live, and you can ask your questions on YouTube. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, please give us a thumbs up, like this video if you're watching on YouTube, or give us some stars if you're leaving podcast ratings. We always appreciate that. And I think that brings us into question time, right? So, Stephen, do you have a question to kick us off with?
Well, I have a quick question first.
Oh,
Before Steven's question, I just want to know. So I had somebody. So what happens when Greg the Frequent Miler, the big thing we need to call out front and center, Greg the Frequent Miler is not here. Greg is walking upside down on the other side of the world. What is it, Steven? Trying not to chunder?
Correct.
Trying not to chunder,
Are we
which
sure that's an appropriate
Because he's a
word?
man down under.
yeah, totally. So check out the Men Down Under song. But so somebody said, so what do we do when Greg's out of town? When Greg's away, Carrie, did you throw a kegger and invite all of the Ann Arbor peeps over? Or is there anything that happens when Greg's out of town, or do we just like industriously chip away at daily tasks?
We just keep it rolling. We just keep the machine going for the most part.
when the cat's away, the mice don't play.
No, we just work and make it
Yeah,
work.
I know. The sad fact is we're all too old to play.
Yeah.
The cat's away. It's like, well, I guess we don't have a team meeting, so we can sleep in. Maybe, I guess.
It depends on what time zone
Take a
you're in,
nap.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Speak for yourself. That's dinner time for me.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that's right.
All right,
All
well,
In any event, though,
let's-
Greg's absence is sorely missed, and we hope that he's having a great time walking around upside down on the other side of the world and chundering, or hopefully not chundering.
Yes. So, Stephen, start us off with the first question that you collected ahead of time. And then otherwise, we'd like you to submit your questions in the chat here live on YouTube, and we'll feed them as we go.
Cool. So our very first question is, what specific Hyatt properties have we booked or will we be booking before the upcoming award chart changes? So just as a recap, Hyatt announced that they're going to be changing how they price awards. So they're going to go from off-peak, standard, and peak to 5 different levels. I know that there's like top, Nick, you probably remember all 5 of the terms for the different
yes.
things. So what were they? It was top, like
Lowest,
moderate.
low, moderate, upper, and top.
There we go. So yeah, so awards going to be getting more expensive. Plus, we're expecting there to be category changes announced, or like with specific properties going up or down, categories announced at some point in the next few weeks, because that's usually when they announce it each year, is March sometime. So
They
do you
announced it'll
guys
be April
have
this year, though.
any-
When they announced the new award chart, they announced that those changes are coming in April.
Oh, it'll be April.
this time
Okay,
around.
cool.
Mhm.
So, do you guys have any plans to book things now before it gets more expensive?
Tim, what do you
Well,
got?
Yeah, start with
Well,
Tim.
I have a so I had I'm going to cheat in one way, not really overall, and partially it's because I'm honestly not expecting to see huge changes for the remainder of this year, and I've just started thinking about next year because of the booking windows that we're in. So I'm kind of like at this point, but. A couple things that I did think about. One was a booking that I already made that I'm glad I did, is I have been wanting to try a Miraval for quite some time. And so last year I stretched a little bit and got if you get 100 elite nights in a year from Hyatt, you can get a what's called a Miraval Extra Night that gives you a free night. Like on a points or a cash booking, you can get a free night, like that's like effectively like a BOGO, a buy one get one free. And so I had that certificate. So he had already made Miraval reservations. And I already like I can't remember what the cost was. I think it was like 65,000 points a night. It's something ridiculous. But these properties, they're it's like a whole the idea is it's like a health and wellness retreat kind of thing. And I already was sort of blanching at spending that amount of points. Looking at what the new charts look like, I'm really, really glad that I made that reservation now because I would never spend what they're going to charge for these properties going forward. So I did that. And the other thing is I've been kind of uh, uh, dancing around for a couple of years about doing a just for the blog, going somewhere and trying to compare, like do a week and spend it and do a week at like one night during a week at various Hyatt all-inclusive properties. And I've been putting that off because I don't really like all-inclusive properties, but I thought it would be a fun sort of, hey, here's the different brands because there's like 9 of them now or whatever, 10. So now I'm kicking around booking that or planning that because those charts again are going up like crazy. And I already don't like spending the amount that it requires to book an all-inclusive property, and I'm going to like it even less once the charts take over. So those are kind of the two things that I'm tossing around.
Nick, how about you?
I want to know if Steven's planning to stalk me at the places that I'm going to. Is that why you want to know where I'm going to be? No, so I did book a couple. So all right, sort of similar to what Tim said. Because of the way the booking window works, I already had most of this year's travel planned, most of it when this was announced. So, and you can only book so far into next year. However, when this was announced, it was almost perfect for a year in advance for next February. In my state, in New York State, kids are off of school for a week in February. Instead of President's Day, they get President's Week. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that's a really popular week for people from New York to go on vacation, particularly anywhere warm. So the whole Eastern Seaboard and the Caribbean tends to be very expensive that week during February. So I booked a property in the Caribbean. That's as specific as I want to be now. But booked a property to go to and check out, and we'll see how that goes for February break, because I knew that week would be hard to get later on probably. And like Tim said, the prices that some of these properties are going to cost going forward, I'm just not going to be interested in going anymore. So I
Mhm.
want to get one of those in now while I can. And then I'm already going to be on the West Coast, so I've made a couple of reservations, and I don't know exactly which ones I'll keep. I intend to visit the Monterey Aquarium, and so I'm looking at the Hyatts in that area to use for now, and also in San Francisco because I'll be out there for a few days. But unfortunately, like I said, fortunately, I did have most of this year's travel booked already, so I'm not jumping on a lot of other stuff either,
Mhm.
partly because, and this is probably the case for a lot of us, I've traveled to a lot of the places that I kind of wanted to, that that were out there, and so I don't feel like as much pressure. I think if there was a situation where I was like, oh man, I've always wanted to go to whatever it is, the Park Hyatt in Paris, then I would be looking to do that now. I haven't actually stayed at that property, but that was never at the top of my list. So I do think it makes sense for those types of properties, your high end category 7, category 8, that you like have always wanted to and dreamed of staying at, and you will not dream of spending 75,000 points. It's worth planning a trip around that now.
So let
All
me
right.
quickly add a little asterisk to this question for you as you finish your response, and then for Stephen. So then, based on kind of what you're saying, if there was one property that you like, say a category 6, 7, 8, or whatever that you've already been to that you hadn't been to, what would you prioritize to say, you know what, I want to get this before it's going to cost me an arm and 5 legs?
That's a great question. Boy, it's I mean, the property that comes back to my mind is the Grand Hyatt Kauai, and it's not because it's the best hotel I've ever been to necessarily, as much as it's one that I really like. It's very pretty. The breakfast is pretty good. The lounge is nice. The staff is really friendly, and Kauai is just a wonderful place. And so it's a place that we've been to a few times now, and so it holds a lot of good memories, and it's a place I've enjoyed going back to. Again, I think sometimes in this game you start to find places that you kind of look forward to going back to, and you look forward to that familiarity of a particular place that you liked. And so that's a place that holds a dear place in my heart that I would enjoy going back to again, but unfortunately I'm just not going to get a chance to this time. I think if you've never been to Kauai, that might be one that's worth prioritizing because it's a pretty good value compared to cash rates a lot of the time, even though it does still cost quite a lot of points these days. But there's tons of great properties out there, so it's really hard for me to pick one, I think. But Stephen, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have picked exactly the same property as you because I did love that. Although I think it's more expensive now than when we visited a couple of years ago
Same.
because like did it go up to category 8 last year if I
Hmm.
remember right? So it's
Yeah.
already like more expensive than it was when I
Hmm.
booked our stay there. And I think I'd managed to snag like we stayed there for a week and I think I snagged like at least 2 or 3 days where it was off peak as well. And so got quite lucky with the award pricing when it was at category 7. Otherwise, maybe like the Hyatt Regency in Lake Tahoe. We really loved
Mm.
that property. We stayed there in off season, and it was a wonderful place, incredibly dog friendly. Like quite a few of the activities and like the guided hikes and things like that. You can bring your dog along as well. And like we were visiting with our dog at the time, and so that was super nice that we didn't just have to like leave her back in the room when we wanted to go do stuff. In terms of future bookings, though, haven't really got anything else that I need to do. Like Nick and Tim, I think I've booked most of our accommodation for the coming year already. We do have a few stays coming up that I do still need to book, but none of those are cities where Hyatt has any kind of presence, so that's not any kind of priority for booking right now. So yeah, like as of now, that yeah, I'm not planning on booking anything now, and I think for all three of us as well it's quite handy because we're somewhat flexible with when we go on vacation and travel. So that does give us a bit of an edge over a lot of people who only have, say, like 1 week or 2 weeks off per year from their job and can only go during like summer vacation or school holidays or something like that. Being
Hmm.
able to pick and choose our dates means that we can hopefully find dates at a property where we really want to go in the future at the lowest or low or moderate rates, which makes it a little bit less of an issue with this award pricing changes.
I find it really interesting that all of you guys have basically planned your entire year of travel and it's only March.
Yep.
That's
That's,
what you got to do. You got to
Well,
plan in advance, Carrie.
oh
well, and
boy.
that will be like, I haven't necessarily planned my entire year, but in terms of
Mm.
like the big destination
Yeah,
stuff, like, the big, like what we're doing over spring
same.
break, it's already planned out. What we're doing over the first part, like, and partially it's because my wife is bound somewhat by the school calendar. So we look far in advance by her based on when she's available and so forth. I'm sure there will be other things that I'll add along the way and we'll do along the way, but it's just the big ones that are sort of like the destination ones. Those are kind of already planned.
I should have
Interesting.
added, I'm sorry, and I know we need to move on, but I should have added that this may all change when the category changes come out because, if there's places that move up from category 4, particularly to category 5 next year, that's going to make a huge difference. Then I
Mm,
will make a strong effort to
right.
book some of those category 4 properties
Yep.
before they move into a band where it's going to cost far
Yep.
more to stay at them.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. So next question. We're going to start with Tim. How did you learn about how to find good flights to book with transfer partners? I'm trying so hard to learn, but it feels confusing and overwhelming. I need more concrete step-by-step help. What do you got?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that I am like still learning partially. But so to back up there, there's kind of two ways of the question sort of asking two ways is like how do you actually book the partner award? There's the one thing of how do you find space and know that which program is best to book that space. And then the second is how do you actually then book the award once you see that there's space. And honestly, these days, I do the vast majority of my searching through the various award search tools that are out there. The primary one that I use, and it's just because it's my favorite, is seats.aero. Um, it takes a little bit, it's not as user friendly for people that don't know what they're doing, or not that don't know what they're doing, but don't have a lot of experience in searching for stuff. But there's a lot of really broad search capacity that you can do with it that's really cool. But that said, I also use a Ward tool. I also use Points. Yeah, those are kind of the three that I tend to use. And Stephen and Nick, you can add any that you find useful for like from a beginner's perspective. Um, and even the free versions of those can be very helpful in terms of finding the actual space specifically for flights, especially on these is what I'm talking about and not hotels. Um, the other one is there's one called it's point.me, right? ME.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm. Yes.
And that one kind of drives me nuts because it's really slow. But what it does have that I think is cool for a beginner's perspective is once you find space on something, it will actually show you step by step how you need to get how to get your points that you have into the currency that you need in order to book that. And pretty much, and a lot of the different tools will have these sorts of things where they'll say, "Hey, here's the space. You can book it these 5 different ways through these 5 different programs." But Point.me goes an extra step and it kind of gives you a tutorial and saying, "Here's how to get from where you're at to where you need to be in order to book this." So that can be helpful. And the cool thing too about a lot of these is many of them you can buy like a short trial. So like you don't necessarily have to get a subscription. You can say, "Hey, I'm going to buy." I think it's usually about a week. If I'm remembering correctly. And then and you can just sort of use it as much as you would like with unlimited searches during that week. Or you can subscribe to it as well. I subscribe to a lot of them, but I look for a lot of flights. But that actually these days I think is a great starting point. Now, the caveat that I will say is not everything is caught by these search engines. And as you go through and start to learn more about the programs and where things can be found, you'll probably start to branch out a little bit on your own and say, "Oh, I see this here. This gives me an idea of something I might be able to do here." However, that's super confusing. And when you're first starting out, I think these award tools are really great. We have a post that Greg writes every year called "Which Award Search Tool is Best?" So check that out. And I'm sure we'll link to it in the show notes here. Check that post out, and he does a really good job of kind of going tool by tool and saying, "Hey, here's the strengths, here are the cons," and then you can. And I would use that as a starting point personally.
Yeah.
Couple of very quick things I'd add is that some of the search tools are available on shopping portals, so that can reduce your net cost for the first year. I know Seats.aero is definitely on there, and sometimes you'll get like 100% back on your first monthly payment or like 30% back on your first year's payment if you do an annual membership. So that's a way to save a bit more if you are interested in subscribing. And the other thing I'd suggest is join our Frequent Miler Insiders Facebook group. Because if you've like done some award searches, like say you want to get from like the US to Rome or something like that, and you go in there, you can post like, "I found this, this, and this. Is this my best option?" There are so many helpful people in the group. Like there's, I think, like more than 50,000 people in the group now. And if you show what you found so far, you will definitely get people who are wanting to help you find the best possible thing, because you've kind of like shown that you've like done the research, but there may well be like additional stuff that you've missed. So I'd recommend like joining the group if you're not already there.
Yeah.
Let me throw in 1.5 more plugs. I know we got to move to the next one. Points Path, if you haven't looked at that, is worth looking at also, because that plugs right into Google Chrome. It's an extension. It'll show you award pricing side by side with cash pricing. It has a limited number of partners in the free version, but it's a great start for understanding that. And it's a tool that I just use all the time without thinking about it, since it plugs into Chrome. And then the other plug I'll give you is that I believe, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this weekend's podcast is actually going to be all about the tools that Greg and I actually use on a regular basis. So we're going to talk exactly about this on the next full-length Frequent Miler on the Air. So make sure you listen to that.
That's right. And by the time you listen to this in podcast form, it will be the podcast from 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for those of you who are live,
that's why I needed Carrie's help.
For those of you who are live, it will be in 2 days. Anyway, so 2 days either direction. All right. So next question is for Stephen and I. This person says, "Now I am retired. My wife and I are interested in finding rentals for several weeks at a time. I'm pretty good at finding good properties on Airbnb and VRBO for several days, but have less experience navigating longer term rentals. Do you have any tips on how to find good locations and get good deals?" Stephen, you go first.
Yeah, so so this was a comment left on the Ask Us Anything blog post where we kind of like remind people that it's coming up. And I've already replied to them there. So I'll basically just read out my answer that I gave them there, just because I imagine there are people watching who would be interested in this kind of information too. So the first thing I asked them was if their stays were in the US or overseas, because if they're in the US, on Airbnb, you can check the pricing for stays of 31 or more days. That's because a lot of states don't charge for tax, don't charge like accommodation tax for stays when you're going to be there for 30 days or more, or 31 days or more. It kind of like depends on the state. And normally, if you're staying at hotels for that long, then you have to proactively ask them for a refund of the tax. But with Airbnb, they seem to automatically remove the tax during the entire booking process, so you don't even have to pay it up front, which is nice. Um, Also, many Airbnb hosts offer a substantial discount when you're booking a month-long stay. So it can be worth reaching out to them directly if you're not seeing kind of like a big discount displayed when you're doing a search. Just reach out to a particular property owner if you find somewhere that you're really interested in staying. Say that you're interested in a long-term stay and ask if they'd be willing to give you a bigger discount for that kind of booking. A lot of them may well say no, but I'm sure you'll get some who'll say yes. Also, when doing a search on Airbnb, especially for stays that long, you're quickly going to realize that there's some stuff that's non-negotiable. Like you're going to want free parking, Wi-Fi, a kitchen, washer dryer, and things like that. So use the filter options that they have on Airbnb to select all of those, because that will help narrow down certain properties. And then you can use the slider on there to reduce the price to a certain price range that you're going to be comfortable with. As for VRBO, I've never actually booked through VRBO. I've only ever used Airbnb, so I don't really have many recommendations for how to find the best deals on VRBO. And then in terms of locations, I asked them if they meant in general, because kind of like depending on if they're happy to visit anywhere in the world or if they're just looking for recommendations of how to find a good location in any given city. Because if they're happy to travel worldwide, Airbnb lets you search by country or even by continent. So you can just plug in like Europe, your kind of like dates and like travel requirements and things like that. And then you'll just get all kinds of options. If they're just wondering about how to find out the best location within any kind of specific city, then I recommend that they take a look at Google Maps and take a look at the hotel options in certain neighborhoods. Because if you've got like a Hyatt Regency, a Crowne Plaza, Renaissance, and stuff like that, chances are it's a business district, and so that may or may not be good for what you're looking for. But then if you're finding that in an area they've got things like a Red Roof Inn, Days Inn, Quality Inn, Super 8, and stuff like that, chances are it's going to be a bit more of a shady, dodgy neighborhood, and so you may not necessarily want to stay there. So, and also just use Google Street View as well. So if you just like drag the little yellow person on Google Maps onto there, you can just search all around, and then that's not always entirely accurate in terms of getting a great impression or not of what a place is like, but it can give you a bit of a better sense of what that particular place looks like. So that was the recommendations that I had for them. How about you, Carrie?
Yeah, the only other things I would add is that again, just like you, I don't know as much about VRBO, but in Airbnb, so to see that like flexible search, they have a really convenient search tool. So you click, you can type in where you're interested, but then when it in the section where you would put in dates, if you click flexible instead, you can say you want a weekend, a week, or a month, and then you can pick which kind of calendar area you want it to be in. And then they'll show you all kinds of options. So especially if you're flexible, then the map will it won't show you a specific range of dates. It will show you a bunch of prices for a bunch of weeks, and you can highlight the options to see, this one is June 5th to 15th, and this other one is June 15th to 30th. And so you can start to kind of fill in your calendar or build your trip around this really great spot that happens to be available for 2 whole weeks here. Or and so if you select month, it might not show you an entire month. It might show you like close to a month, but you can start to kind of like see search results that aren't limited to things that don't apply to you because you're flexible. So again, just instead of using the calendar, you want to click flexible and then click weekend, week, or month. And then for figuring out like what part of town to be in, if I'm going to be somewhere for a long time, I definitely like to pull up Google Maps, type in coffee and restaurants, and start to like get an idea of like, because I like my routine when I'm staying for a long time. I like my, I start the day with coffee, and then I want to have like a few different restaurants I can try throughout the week. I want to start to like be picture what my walking life is going to be like for that week. And you'll start to see like a concentration, like Mexico City is a great example. We would be pinning all these restaurants and they all happen to be in La Condesa, or you notice that they're all in one part of town. Well, then that's the part of town you want to be in. For me, walkability is really important. If I'm staying somewhere for like a whole month, I want to like where I'm staying. And then, like Stephen said, definitely don't be afraid to message the host, and ahead of time, instead of instant booking, message them and just say, hey, I've got good reviews if you do. And I'm going to be staying for this amount of time. And is there any kind of discount you can give me since I'm staying for a long time? And a lot of people will do that. So don't be afraid to ask. Yeah, I think that's all I can think of. How about the rest of you guys? Tim and Nick, anything else to add?
The only thing that I would suggest, since you're retired, or since this person is retired, not you, Carrie, you better not be retired because we
I'm
need
not.
you. But there's a service called Trust. If you depending on your pet allergies or your animal allergies, there's a service called Trusted House Sitters that we use a lot, and I know several people that use a lot, and they use this sort of their exclusive way. They're permanent digital nomads, and they use this as their exclusive way, by and large, of going around the country and the world. And effectively, what this is, it's a place where it matches people who need house sitting and have a pet, usually, with people who want a place to stay. And there's no cost outside of the yearly membership for either party. And in some cases, I know I have several friends that they've actually sort of developed yearly sort of rhythms where they go back to a given place and a given house, and or a given sit, and they sort of kind of now have their kind of yearly migration patterns mapped out through the sits they've liked. And I know that can be a very good way if you're not, but all that to say, it also does mean that you're going to have a pet there. And in some cases, that might be a dog that you have to walk a couple times a day. And sometimes it means a cat that you can kind of throw some food in a dish and not have to worry too much about. Or in some cases, it could be a horse. There's actually people that try to do horses this way. But all that to say, it's worth checking out if indeed you're trying to kind of do the full-time traveling thing.
Yeah, one other tool if you're looking in the States, there's something called furnishedfinder.com. It's designed for, I think, like traveling nurses and stuff like that, people with like work contracts. And so that's more like 3 month, 1 to 3 month arrangements. I think it's only in the States, but that's a decent option. It kind of fills the role that Craigslist would have at one point. If you want to find like sublets and things like that, but instead it's people who, instead of subletting now, they're just furnishing a room, and they got tired of Airbnb and they want long-term folks. So that's another one to test out. I think that's kind of all I can think of. Nick, anything from your side?
Not Craigslist.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've even remotely considered that as like and there's woofing, and then there's
No, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm laughing because yeah, we got an apartment in Berlin years ago for a few months
Totally.
from Craigslist. So
Totally.
I totally know what you mean.
yeah.
But it's freaky to use. Oh
Those
my
were the
gosh.
days.
I wonder
Yeah.
if I wonder if that even really exists anymore. And then there's couch surfing, which still exists, but not in the way that it used to. Now you pay a fee, kind of like the trusted house sitters. So it's a little bit more like just the rest of these, VRBO and whatnot. All right, let's move on. Stephen, this one's for you. Looking to get a Hilton Aspire card and upgrade a Surpass card. Should I do this on two different devices at almost the same time, or does it not matter?
I mean, I'm not really seeing a need to do it almost instantly. What I would do is get the Aspire card first and get that approved, because if you upgrade the Surpass card first, that will likely prevent you from being able to earn a welcome bonus on the Aspire card. So sort out the Aspire card, Then after that, do the Surpass card. Sometimes there's a landing page on the Amex website where you can just visit your Surpass card and then upgrade to an Aspire. Other times you can't actually product change online, so you would need to do an online chat, and or like call up Amex and have them upgrade the card to an Aspire for you. But yeah, definitely sort out the brand new Aspire card before doing the Surpass.
All right. Nick, I am planning a trip for 2 weeks, covering Copenhagen, Stockholm, and Oslo with a 2-year-old. Do you have recommendations on where to stay? Planning during July.
Well, I mean, the
Guidance,
first thought that
spots.
comes to my mind for that part of the world is choice privileges, because they partner with what's now known as Strawberry Hotels, but it's still Clarion and Clarion Collection and Comfort Inn type things. But those properties are nice in Scandinavia, and just as is the case with choice privileges properties elsewhere, sometimes you'll be able to find rooms that accommodate more people, larger rooms, sometimes even suites, available for the same cost as a standard room. I haven't looked at those properties in Scandinavia for suites in a long time, so I don't know off the top of my head if there are those everywhere, but I know I've run into those situations before anyway, where you'll find those larger rooms that accommodate more people. Though if it's just 3 of you, I imagine most rooms would probably accommodate 2 adults and a small child. Anyway, so that's where I'd look first. Clarion Collection offers, and there's at least another brand that offers this too, offers both a free hot breakfast and a free hot evening meal, which is a fantastic value. And if it doesn't sound amazing yet, just wait until you go out to dinner in Oslo and you'll be really happy about the idea of having it included in your hotel bill. So that's one place I would recommend looking. Now, if you're a good value shopper and you're willing to do a little bit of extra work, another potential option that doesn't get talked about a lot, but I've written about before, is that Finnair has a number of hotel partnerships in the Scandinavian countries where you can buy a voucher for a particular brand of hotel for a number of Avios and a cash component. Now, the thing to know about this is whatever you see advertised on the landing page for that, it's actually flexible. You can choose to pay more Avios or less Avios. And if you choose to pay the least number of Avios, essentially you can pretty easily come out with like 15 or 20 cents per point in value when you're looking at the Scandic hotel vouchers and the Socos hotel vouchers. Some of the other brands you may not get quite as much, but again, there are opportunities, and you'll find those brands in all of those cities that you just mentioned in this question. So that's another place to look. So if you look up Finnair Scandic hotels, Scandic, you'll probably find the landing page, and from there figure out what you have to click to look at all the different hotel ones. The thing about those is that you get a voucher and you can only do it up to 6 months in advance. It does show you on the website, though, the code that you have to use to check for voucher availability. There's a couple of different vouchers, like for Scandic. I know there's a basic voucher for some properties and a premium voucher that works for other properties. So it'll take you some time to research that, but can be well worth it. I did write a post about it. So if you just Google frequent miler Finnair hotels, I'm sure you'll probably find it, or hopefully we'll get a link in the show notes here with a link to that post. So that's another option to consider for award stays if you're looking for a good value.
Cool.
Right.
I'll just add like two very quick things. One is that fine hotels and resorts properties. There are some like somewhat reasonably priced ones in the Scandinavian countries. So if you have an Amex Platinum or Business Platinum and you have the $300 like twice yearly credits to use up, take a look at those. You've mentioned as well that you're going to be going with a 2-year-old. So I'm kind of assuming that there's like 2 of you and a 2-year-old. If that's the case, that like could potentially limit your options, because a lot of hotels in Europe only let you have 2 people in a hotel room. But hopefully with them being 2 years old, there might be a little bit more flexibility there. But I imagine that will have some kind of impact on where you'll be able to book. So that in itself will probably like constrain where you can actually book anything.
Yeah. Good point. All right, moving on to Tim. What would you suggest if your P2, player 2, is very reluctant? I can't convince him to open more cards. Is that something you've experienced, and what would you suggest?
I think that everybody but Nick Reyes, everybody not named Nick Reyes has experienced this. Nick has one of the rare P2s who's really a P1 masquerading as a P2. And she's really taking Nick along for the ride.
She doesn't listen to the podcast. Not going to do me any good, but thank you.
No, I'm not. I don't care if she looked at the podcast. Like Nick's player two is somebody that everybody in this game like envies. It's like, oh my gosh, she's liquidating gift cards for you on your
and reminding
She's the next to
so-
burn.
Yeah, I mean, this is relationship, and my first thing to say is that just like anything else in relationship, it's not worth your relationship to try to get them to open up more credit cards. And you really have to pick your battles. And so, what I have, like for instance, my wife doesn't, we've developed after years of negotiation and therapy and all this other stuff, she can have she wants 3 cards. And that's all she wants. She's willing to do 3 cards in her wallet, and she'll spend on those 3 cards. So I've developed a strategy around a 3-card strategy for her. Like, okay, here's what we can do. These are the 3 cards, and she's willing to have it rotated, but as long as she doesn't have more than 3 cards. But I think that in general, the thing is to just let your player two be your player two, and probably as you get more into things, as you start to open cards, as you start to take trips together, as they start to see what is happening, as they start to, as all of this stuff sort of, as you get more into the hobby, they will probably become more comfortable with the idea of them opening more cards or you sort of managing that on their behalf. And it's funny, I just had a good friend of mine who is married to another really good friend of mine. We'd go on a weekly walk together, and just this last week, he was saying that for the first time ever, they had ran out of, I think it was Delta Sky Miles or something, and his wife had agreed to let him open up a card for the first time ever in her name, and he was so excited about it. He's like, I feel like this is a whole new chapter in our relationship.
Right.
But I think, I mean, because, the reality is that, they're their own person, and they have their own credit, and they have their own, and it's not worth, it's, in my opinion, it's not worth trying to badger them into doing what you think they should do, as opposed to just welcoming them into what you're doing. And I think in the end, there will probably be some kind of meeting in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
And just as a nice manipulation, maybe book a trip that would be like a dream trip for them and try and make it luxury. So try and fly business class and stay in a suite or something like that. Because if you do something like that, there's a good chance they're not going to want to go back, and they'll be like, okay, I can see why people enjoy business class. I can see why people like this luxury hotel. I'm getting on board. Like Tim said, even if they don't necessarily want to be opening a whole ton of cards themselves, they might be willing then to let you kind of manage that side of it. So although it is manipulation, really it's benefiting them. And so is it really manipulation at that point? So yeah, that's just one further off.
Don't go to Stephen for
Woo!
marriage counseling, though.
Yeah.
I think it's also helpful, or at least for me, it was helpful because I was a somewhat reluctant P2, to demonstrate the increase in credit score. Like, I don't know what different people have different reasons why they're nervous about having more credit cards. But, if you, help them understand that it doesn't have to be something that tanks your credit score, and in fact, it can improve your credit score, then I think that can take a lot of that nervousness out. Nick, did you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I thought that Tim hit the nail on the head that it doesn't matter whether it's credit cards or anything else. You don't want to force an interest on somebody that they don't have. And to or Stephen's point, I mean, demonstrating how it works and allowing them to become interested in it on their own, that again, that probably is effective with anything, whether you're interested in cooking or watching Real Housewives or
Right.
traveling with credit cards, whatever it is that you have an interest in. The way to share that with somebody is more so just share your enthusiasm rather than try to kind of shove it down their throat. So I would, yeah, I think that you have to respect that, particularly in this field. I think to Carrie's point, also, a lot of people get nervous about opening new cards and managing new cards and all the rest of that stuff. And so I think it's natural for people to be hesitant. Also, though, it's probably natural for most people, if they see that it's working, to be like, "Oh, tell me more about that, actually." So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a smart strategy to just plan some trips, and rather than try to force it on them, share when they ask questions, and don't push it on them. Let them become interested in it on their own. It's kind
And
of like the way leadership works, right?
don't forget
Helping
that
people see why they want to do something.
not everyone should be doing this. So don't forget that,
Well,
there's
that
some
too.
people who probably
That
shouldn't
too.
be opening
Yeah.
credit cards.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
if someone is nervous because they know themselves, then definitely don't push it on them. Anyway,
For sure.
we're going to move on to Stephen. Do the Hyatt changes make you reassess the value of Chase Ultimate Rewards points?
Um, to an extent, I guess it does, just because pretty much all of my chase points do get transferred to Hyatt. That said, at the moment, there's kind of no real way of knowing quite how bad this is going to be. We don't know yet what the award calendars are going to be like, quite how expensive it's going to be. I mean, we know like how expensive it's going to be on a like numerical basis as to if something's like top or moderate or lowest or whatever, but we don't know how that's going to be spread out over the course of the year. And so once we have a better idea about that, then we'll have a much better idea. And also like with the award category changes that are going to be coming up in April, once that's all like a bit more clear and we've been able to do a bit more research and see quite how bad or not how bad it is, at that point, I guess I'll like reevaluate how I value chase points, because if it does kind of obliterate the Hyatt program, then it might be that I'd be more likely to transfer like ultimate rewards to Aeroplan or something like that. But at the same time, I think I'd still have a hard time not transferring it to Hyatt. So I probably will stick with Hyatt regardless. So to an extent, it doesn't necessarily matter like how like what the value will be, unless it does end up being abysmal.
All right. Anyone disagree with that? Anyone want to fight Stephen on it? All right. Nick, can I request a retention offer for my altitude reserve and then product change a month later to connect?
You can try. I don't. There's nothing that's going to stop you from trying. I think U.S. Bank is less established in terms of the whole retention offer thing, because they've never really been known for wildly generous retention offers. And I also don't think probably that there were a lot of products where people were asking for retention offers either. So it's not one that I have a great sense on in terms of like, do they claw back a retention bonus? I would doubt that they're that sort of with it and organized to do that. I'm not aware of them clawing back retention offers. So maybe you could do that. And I also don't know what they make you agree to. Like American Express, I know, has a disclosure that they read you, or if you do this in chat, that explains that if you accept a bonus, that you're agreeing to keep the card for 13 months or whatever it is, and that if you close it sooner, that they have the right to take the points back. I don't know what that disclosure is like, or if it even exists with US banks. So I've not had the same type of disclosure with other banks on retention offers in general. So I would doubt that US Bank has anything like that, but I wouldn't know unless you try, to be honest with you. A great place to ask that question would be our Frequent Miler Insiders Facebook group, because you'll probably find somebody in there who has done it with US Bank before and could tell you whether that worked. I will say, though, that we've had some reports of people downgrading their altitude reserve and getting a prorated annual fee. There are quite a few people who've reported that they've downgraded to the Altitude Connect and gotten a prorated annual fee. And there was one person who commented today on the post we had written about that to say that they had a card that renewed in November, I think, and they used the annual travel credit right away in November, December, just downgraded recently and ended up getting the entire annual fee refunded, much to their surprise. So I wouldn't necessarily even worry about stacking them here, but I guess that's the best I can answer is maybe. Does anybody have a better sense?
Mm-mm.
No.
I
Yeah.
don't
I don't
think
know about
so.
US Bank. I know that like you said, Amex will claw back if you don't keep it for a year after, but I'm not sure. I don't know about any other banks off the top of my head.
All right, then we'll move on. Tim, can I book Hyatt stays now before the changes take effect and later modify the dates while keeping the same redemption rate?
Well, I can't say with 100% surety. I can say with about 98.75% surety, maybe even 99.75% surety, no. The only thing that we have to go on is past changes and category changes. And on all of those, if you change the dates after the changes go into effect, you have to pay the new pricing.
All right. Anyone else have any thoughts on that before we move on?
Same.
Same. Okie doke. Stephen, what is the best way to use Wyndham Points nowadays? And do you see any new alignments in the future to replace Vacassa?
Um, no sense on if they'll be doing anything to replace Vacassa. To be honest, I'm not too sure if there are all that many other like vacation rental kind of conglomerates out there that aren't Vacassa, or I can't even remember what company it was that bought Vacassa. It was something.
Casago, maybe?
Casago
Casago.
Yeah, Casago,
or
that's it, yes.
Casago or
Um,
whatever they are the concept.
so,
Yeah.
Casago, probably.
um,
Casago kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But in terms of like best uses now, cottages.com, if you're going to be traveling in the UK, you can get some superb value there. Stay in some like incredibly cute little cottages. Like we stayed at one in the Isle of Skye, which was absolutely incredible a year ago. And they're just all over the UK. So that's one good option. Wyndham properties overseas, I would recommend like values redemption values in the US don't tend to be all that good for the most part, but overseas you can get some really decent value for 7,500 points. During the challenge last year, we stayed at a property in Munich during Oktoberfest, only 7,500 points, but it was going to be like $200-300 a night or something like that otherwise. When I was researching for that challenge as well, I noticed that Dubai had some incredible values as well. Like they had 7,500 point redemptions, but much more expensive cash rates. Not necessarily your best vacation option right now, especially in terms of just physically being able to get there. But that's just one for the future. Bangkok in Thailand. I can't remember what property it was. I think it might have been a Ramada, but and again, Ramada overseas is way different to Ramada in the US, so don't let that scare you. But there was a 7,500 point property that had like a full kitchen. It was a one bedroom suite or something like that. So that too could be some good value. And then yeah, just in general overseas, you can find quite a few 15,000 point properties, 7,500 point properties that are much better than 1 cent per point value. Plus, the Caribbean and a few other countries have some all-inclusive properties, and so those can be a good redemption option as well. Oh, and Hawaii as well,
Let
like
me jump.
50,000 points in Hawaii. Like there's a few properties like that that are good.
Let me jump in on that. If you're not married to the idea of accommodation, you should also take a look at the Wyndham Rewards experiences. If you just Google Wyndham Rewards experiences, they offer numerous different experiences you can book with points. And in some cases, there are things that you just couldn't get otherwise. I am really disappointed that I missed the chance. There were several New York Rangers hockey games this year where you could get 4 tickets in the lower bowl and get the chance for 2 kids under the age of like 13 to ride the Zamboni out on the ice. And I feel like that would have been
Oh,
so much fun for
That would be cool.
4,000 points for the kids. And I missed
do
all
you
of the
think they would have
games as they
believed that
came
you
up.
and Sam were under 13?
Good question. Good question. But they do other things too. In fact, I just today was mentioning with the team here that they had a bunch of minor league baseball experiences. I bought at some point minor league tickets for my sister-in-law, who's a big baseball fan, to be like the play ball announcer at a minor league baseball game. And so that was kind of fun. Today I noticed that the team in Frisco, Texas has these Founders Club tickets or something to their minor league games. I think it was like 5,000 points for 2 tickets to a game that includes a full dinner and dessert It included unlimited hot dogs, hamburgers, beer and wine at the game, parking pass, all the rest of that for 5,000 points, which you can sometimes buy for about
Yeah, that was
$35. So
incredible.
yeah, pretty choice. So there's some things like that every now and then where I'm like, wow, that's a great deal. If I was in Frisco, Texas, I would be going to some games, but I'm not in Frisco, Texas, so I'm not doing that one. But worth looking at their experiences. They've said that for this month, for Members Month, they're going to add more stuff to it. They've got tickets to Lady Gaga's shows at Madison Square Garden. So there's some other cool stuff like that that you might not have considered. And if you're not going to use your Wyndham points on a hotel, they may be attractive.
Yeah, there's some kind of music festival. I think it was in Florida. It's like some kind of 3-day festival, 1,000 points. I think it's like a limited time, like there's only a handful of tickets kind of thing, but 1,000 points for a 3-day like VIP pass to this music
Wow.
festival. Um, if you enjoy the music that's there, would be a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah,
So
wow.
yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
All right, great. Nick, this one's for you. So earlier we talked about the tools that help us kind of figure out transfer partners and all of that with award searches for flights. This person wants to know, are there good award search engines for hotel award stays?
So Gondola.ai is one that I know Greg uses a lot. I don't love it. I have not found it to be always useful in finding the places that I wanted to find, but Greg's been using it a lot, so I must be missing something. But Gondola.ai will look for hotels, and you can toggle on a switch to look at the points pricing versus the cash pricing. And Gondola uses our reasonable redemption values actually to show you whether or not the hotel is a good value as compared to its reasonable redemption value, which I think is super handy for people who don't want to do the math or aren't familiar with the math or are new to the game and don't even know what the math is that they need to be doing. So I think it's really useful from that standpoint for the places that it does find. The other tool that I use quite a bit is Max My Point. And so Max My Point will show you calendars for particular properties. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for to some extent. And then you can look at award availability calendars. And so I find that useful, both A, to take a look and see what's available, but B, because I set alerts with it so that when a room opens up, I can snag it. And that has helped me find rooms I needed numerous times already where there was no award available when I was searching, but I set up an alert. And in fact, just to kind of test it out early on, I set up one of those and I still obsessively searched like all day for days and days and days on end to see would I find it before Max My Point found it. And I didn't. So, so I was really happy that I got the alert, was able to book. So that's a tool I use. Rooms.arrow does similar stuff. And so I haven't used Rooms.arrow. I use Seats.arrow all the time. I just haven't gotten in the habit of using Rooms.arrow, but that offers similar functionality in terms of being able to set alerts. And I think perhaps it's even more useful if one of you guys uses Rooms.arrow. Maybe you can talk about that. So that's a little bit about what I use. And then if you have a platinum card, Max My Point has Max FHR also, and that'll help you find FHR and hotel collection properties. And that I use all the time now to look for properties because I hate having to log into my Amex account. It's like a slow process. And instead I can just pop in a country and some dates and look at what there is available for FHR or hotel collection. I find it just to be a faster tool to use.
All right. Anyone else have anything to add there?
Well, really quickly, just to throw on with the Max FHR thing, I can't remember the name right off the top of my head. Do you remember what the tool is for the edit? It's like Max.
No.
So Google frequent miler change the edit switch tool. It's a weird name because it sort of sounds like like an adult site. It's like Max XXX.
It's editmaxer.com.
Edit Maxer. But there's
EDITMAXXER.com.
That's true.
Mm.
But don't worry about the two X's. It's actually completely safe for work. And that's also one that can help with chase the edit credits as opposed to and Max FHR is awesome for FHR and hotel collection stuff. But that's also one that's good for the edit.
Right. I gotta add that to our notes here. Good tip. All right. Now we're gonna move on to everyone. This is an all play, but we'll start with Tim, and I'm gonna like reshape the question a little bit. So this person says, have or would you guys entertain having all of your P2s, again, that's player 2, on for a podcast or an Ask Me Anything so we could hear about their experience through the shenanigans you play. So since we don't have them here, I'm curious, can each of you think of the one thing your P2 would say if they were on a podcast about like the shenanigans they have to put up with? Tim, what would your P2 say?
Well, my favorite P2 moment, and I'm sort of disregarding a question a little bit, but answering it another way, is she doesn't have a high tolerance for the Frequent Miler on the Air podcast.
Shame. For
or or
shame.
or a lot of Frequent Miler, really. But but so one time, jokingly, sometimes when we're like going around or something, I might turn it on to say, "Oh, hey, I have this great," and I'll turn it on and it's Nick and Greg. And at one point, I think I think it was Nick talking about the Wyndham Earner business card and like the various like there were at one point we had a segment called Card Talk where they would go through like a specific card and talk about and so Nick was talking about I'm gonna say it's Nick who was talking about the various earning ratios and stuff, and she's like, you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like the adults in the Charlie Brown shows where it's like wah, 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 8x wah, 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 5x wah, 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 wah.
Rude.
Everything between the numbers sounds like
Fair. Totally fair.
Nick, how do you feel about that?
Totally fair. I understand.
So I think there's a fair, but so what I give her crap about though is like she is like incredibly on the Starbucks rewards program. And I'm like,
Mm.
how is it that this is the one that captures the attention? But anyway,
I don't know.
so
Coffee's an addictive substance, so
totally. But
yeah.
so, Nick, Stephen, what would your P2 say? I mean, we already know kind of what Stevens would say because she
She got to be in the
Stephen and Shea Pepper were the world champions of the 2025 annual challenge.
Yes. So Stephen, what do you think she would say if she was on a podcast specifically about the shenanigans that she has to put up with?
I don't know. I mean, because she doesn't have to get involved in too many shenanigans, like she would be more than happy to come on a podcast and stuff like that. Like she's way more entertaining to listen to than I am. But I don't know. I mean, she's for me like almost the perfect P2. Maybe not quite as perfect as next P2.
Oh my goodness,
Considering
Stephen.
how much
praise
effort she'll put
being
into
there.
the earning side of it. But
Stephen just has nerves of steel.
we're happily married for almost 22 years. I can get away with that kind of thing. So
First, you're advising everyone to manipulate your P2 and okay, anyway, sorry, go on.
but like she's really great just because she's more than happy for me to manage like the credit card side of things. She will make phone calls like if needed. I do try to like reduce the need for that kind of thing. But yeah, if she does have to ever call up a bank or anything like that, she is willing to do that. And like back when we were living in the US and things like that, if we were going to like an Office Depot or going to Costco or something like that, she's like, do I need to come in with you? And if I said yes to like double up on how many gift cards we're buying, but then she would like come in and be willing to do that and stuff like that. And so plus I think I can imagine it being pretty hard if you have two people really deeply involved in the game, just because then, especially when it comes to award booking, I can imagine there being kind of like conflict as to no, this is the better option. This is the better option. No, I want to be flying like this business class. No, I want to be flying this business class. No, this location's better. This hotel suite's better, and things like that. Because she is happy to leave that up to me, then like I can try and make the best decision like for us for like how we like to travel and things like that without us like having to like have any kind of like conflict as to like whose idea is better and things like that. So overall, it's like a great situation for me. So
redeemed. You redeemed yourself. All right, Nick, what do you think your P2 would say?
In the interest of time, what I'm going to tell you is when this came, I saw this recently. Someone, I don't know if I saw this particular question or it came from someone else. And I told her that someone had brought up the idea of the player twos coming on Ask Us Anything. She looked at me and she said, Did you tell them that I'm not awake past 9 o'clock at night?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So yes, I don't think you'll be hearing from her on this anytime soon because she is not a night owl like some of the rest of us.
Right, like Stephen over there at 2 a.m. his time zone.
3 a.m. now.
Yes. All right. Well, speaking of which, thanks so much for joining us all. We've come to the end of our time. Again, we do this the first Wednesday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Join us, ask your questions. We've really enjoyed it. And because there's a lag in YouTube when we turn off the live, I'm gonna ask each of you to demonstrate what you've been drinking throughout this live. Showcase your beverage of choice,
Water.
and I will be closing us off as you do that.
I have had water, and I have had a little bit of Maker's Mark.
I think Nick wins with the Frequent Miler branded mug. So
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Product placement here.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Oh, and do we need to have Nick do a closing spiel?
Yes, Nick, do your closing
Nick,
spiel.
it.
Okay, wherever you're watching or listening, don't forget to give this a thumbs up or a like, leave us a comment. We always appreciate that. And if you'd like to get more of this stuff in your email inbox each day or each week, you want to go to frequentmiler.com/subscribe to join our email list. Follow us on all the various social media. Join our Frequent Miler Insiders Facebook group where you can ask and answer questions just like this one, any time of day, any night, any morning, any evening. I think I flubbed that one, so I apologize.
It's okay. It'll cut us off anyway.
No second take. Okay.
All right. Thanks for joining.